A lot of us know what it's like to lose something, often a very part of ourselves. Something we needed, something that's taken and we didn't get a say. And somewhere along the way, we kind of stop expecting it back. There's a story from Inuit traditions across the Arctic that knows exactly what that feels like. It's about a woman named Sedna. She was a princess, and men came from everywhere as suitors because they wanted to marry her. And she refused man after man after man. Nobody was enough, nobody was right, until a stranger arrived. And he promised comfort and stability, and most importantly, a different life. She wanted something new. And so she went with him. But it didn't take long for her to realize something was wrong. There are different versions of the story, but in a lot of them, he's this bird spirit. And the bird spirit is wearing the shape of a man. And instead of the life she'd imagined, she finds herself completely isolated, trapped, far from anything she'd ever known. This kind of a story can feel familiar to a lot of people. So what Sedna does is she calls out. And as happens in myth lots of times, someone hears her father. And he comes for her. And he takes her into his kayak. The bird spirit is off somewhere else. And so he takes her and he puts her in his kayak and they head for home. And the father is rowing as fast as he can because he knows that there is danger right here. And he loves his daughter, but he realizes the danger is associated with how the bird spirit feels about her. And so sure enough, as they're crossing the water, a storm comes up, an enormous tempest. And the sea turns violent and waves crash against the boat. And Sedna's father, he just gets terrified and he panics and he does something really, really awful, something that can't be undone. He pushes Sedna over the side. And she falls into the freezing water, but she doesn't let go. She grabs onto the kayak, trying to pull herself back in. And again, a warning, this story gets pretty nasty. Her father takes out his fishing knife, and where she's holding on, he begins cutting off her fingers, one by one, while she's still holding on. And as those fingers fall into the water, they don't sink down. They transform. And they become these different life forms in the ocean. They become seals and whales and walruses. The fingers become the animals that will feed and sustain human life for generations. And Sedna herself, once she can't hold on anymore, she does not float. She sinks all the way to the bottom of the ocean. And she doesn't come back. But she's transformed as well. She becomes, the myth says, the ruler of the undersea world. She becomes the source. Every creature that rises from that water comes from her. Now, there's one more part of the story. At the bottom of the ocean, Sedna can't care for herself. She doesn't have any fingers. And her hair becomes tangled and matted and knotted, impossible to manage, and it gets in front of her eyes, so she can't even see where she's going or what she's doing. And when that happens, when she's been neglected, when she's in that much pain, the sea goes barren. The animals that she offers to the world disappear. Life itself stops flowing in this story. So back on land, the shamans realize what's happening and they descend into the depths and they go to find Sedna and they find her there in the dark. And what they do is they gently begin to comb her hair. That's kind of it. They don't fight her. They don't bargain with her. They don't try to bring her back up into the light. They just tend to her where she is. And guess what happens? Life starts flowing again. The animals return. Now, most of the stories in this tradition where there's some sort of powerful being that's related to things going wrong in the world, they ask you to face the thing you're afraid of, to go into the dark and face whatever monster's there, and then come back changed. Joseph Campbell has that famous quote that it's something like the treasure that you seek is in the very cave that you fear to enter. And the message we see in stories all the time is you have to go into the cave, into the darkness, into the place that scares you, in order to obtain the treasure that is going to make your life better. We see it over and over again. This story is kind of working with that theme, but it goes in a slightly different direction, and it asks something that's harder. It says, what if the thing in the depths, in the darkness, isn't a monster you fight, or even your own shadow that you claim? What if it's a wound? Sometimes that's what a story is asking us to consider. Something that got cut off, not by your own choice, and pushed down into the cold, into the icy darkness. Something that didn't die but couldn't come back either. Something that's been sitting at the bottom, tangled and unattended, while life on the surface slowly begins to go thin. Notice the shamans don't rescue Sedna. They don't restore her to what she was before. They don't take her back and put her back on the kayak. They go to her, they find her where she is, and they offer the one thing she can no longer do for herself. So that's what the story points to. Not conquest over a monster, not even understanding it, just going down in there, descent, and then offering care. Because in this story, the place of severance, the place of the deepest damage, is exactly where life comes from. Not despite the wound, because in this story, the place of greatest damage becomes the place that life actually emerges from. Thanks, y'all.